Welcome everyone. I'm very happy to be here to talk about um, uh, something which is very close to my heart, which is the implementation of business analytics. As I started off pretty early in this space of analytics. That time there was no formal education in this. This was around 2002, and I've seen this space develop. And today I would want to showcase to you, a glimpse of what it takes for an organization to incorporate business analytics and data science as a part of its processes, as a part of its culture, if I can so say, because it will require a culture change where each one of us will have to get aligned towards making decisions with data. Uh, as Kushila has said, feel free to write in any comments in the chat, and I request you, do stay tuned. I hope we have a lovely session today. I think all of us are familiar with what is business analytics. If we were to look at the takeaways of today's session, what I really think will happen is we are going to understand the dimensions of business analytics. We will appreciate the need to internalize business analytics as a culture, understand the support needed from business teams to IT teams so that they can enable analytics in day-to-day working, and appreciate the initiatives in this area taken by investment banks have chosen an industry. So it just sort of an old industry which is rightly called the enabler of all types of business transactions, which is the banking industry, and specifically investment banking, which helps corporates work, for some of the examples that I will share with you. Okay. So with this, I will start off on the presentation. I think what we really need to make peace with is the fact that, there will always be this question on what should be the core parameter for making a decision in business. Should it be experience or should it be data? And there will be certain decisions where we would want data and complete automation to happen, and there will be certain decisions which should be seen in with data, but for which it is not that we want an absolute automation of decisions, right? Now, and therefore I would like us to understand a bit about the process of scientific evidence, where data becomes an enabler by giving us evidence that our thoughts, are they running in the right direction or not? Okay. Now, when we talk about scientific evidence, the things that we have to understand is that you need the data which gives us the scientific evidence. We also need the values, the cultural values, where we accept that our data is going to be the basis of taking a call. But then on this, the people who take a call do bring judgment and experience. Okay, because interpretation is a key skill here, and therefore there is never going to be a stage where somebody can say that do we really need experience? You will always need experience. What experience you will need could differ. Okay, and you need the environment where we would be ready to take these decisions on the basis of scientific evidence and implement them. Now, this is the cusp of this is what is called the evidence-based management. That means look at evidence and then make a decision, a management decision. And that is where analytics lies. Analytics, business analytics, data science, machine learning, all of these should ideally lie at this cusp. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier in this slide, we should agree that there will be certain decisions which would be data driven, and certain decisions which would be experience driven but data informed. So we would make even our experience look at data and then conclude if this is what we wish to, or this is how we interpret things. Now, which could be those decisions which could be completely data driven? Some operational decisions, like how people, our systems are telling us that certain websites are not loading, right? Try later. Now, these decisions actually have become completely machine driven, simply because you have you look at the last 100 times that people have accessed a particular website, and when you find that the average time taken was 2 minutes, but already the system has stayed, the server has been pinging for 3 minutes and nothing has happened, then the system automatically tells you that please try later. There seems to be some 404 error, right? Was there analytics involved? Yes, there was an average taken, there was a minimum maximum values taken and a decision taken. Okay, but is this decision taken by humans? Not required, because you can automate this decision cycle. However, when you have certain other decisions, you would want to be data informed, but you would still want the person to take a decision. So for example, though IBM Watson, and I think all of you have heard of it, the AI system, IBM Watson, it helps doctors, make decisions. So it will do the readings and tell you the more likely decision that should be taken, but it would still leave the last mile decision in the hand of the doctor, right? So this is or the pilots, you have autopilot for all your flights, but even then you do not remove the pilot, because in terms of any type of unusual circumstances, you would want the human to take the decision. Okay, so what I'm saying is therefore that we have to understand that when we say we are going to use data and evidence to take decisions, we could be using data driven decisions as well as data informed decisions. Okay. When we look at scientific evidence, we know that there are ways of communication. When you look at a problem, you start with analogies. Oh, this is a similar thing which had happened, and what did somebody do in that circumstances. Then you go to anecdotes where you have been part of such a solution. Last time when there was a downturn and I was handling a business, so and so happened, and that is what I think we can use the same strategy today. Then you use statistics to take a decision, which is where we said data informed, and then you could have where the data informed and data driven decisions come, and then the facts which are therefore we know that once this thing happens, the other thing also happens, right? So we know that once the count of customers start increasing, okay, something else also definitely happens. So those become facts. So the statistics, when seen over multiple scenarios, help you decide that this is now a stats. Okay, this is a fact, something which we can use as a part of our policies. Any doubts still here? Anything that you feel that I need to further tell you? No? Okay. Now, why is analytics a reality today? Analytics is a reality today because of multiple things. You have the concept, of course, of evidence-based management at the core of it, but this is not a new concept. If you really look at it, Stanford had spoken about evidence-based management very early on, 20, 30 years back. But now we have the resources which make this a reality. So you have cheap computing power. Each one of us owns a laptop, and these laptops are pretty good, right? They can store a lot of data, they can process a lot of data. Reliable, well supported freeware, readily available web enabled data, techniques for analysis and experimentation, knowledge and skill sets, and then leadership committed to implementing all of this. So here, what are we saying? We are saying that because of all these multiple things which have fallen together, which means that there is the software, the hardware, the knowledgeware, right? As well as the management deciding to do this, we find that analytics is increasingly becoming part of our decision systems, our ecosystems in our firms. If any of one of these factors were not there, could we have made analytics and data science the reality that it is today? No, it would not be possible. Okay, so this has all led to coining of this particular term. You might have heard it multiple times. People keep saying that data is the new oil. And this is not a very old term. It was actually in 2017 that The Economist had published a story which said that the world's most valuable resource is no longer oil but data. Okay, at this point, I'll take a break and ask you, what do you think was the, was the impact of oil on business? And why do you think that currently, data is being seen as the new oil? Anybody has a view? Anybody would want to contribute on that? Okay. So, see, the thing is, oil is not new. Even data is not new, right? Oil has been below the deserts, under the earth, for millions of years. But it is only when we discovered the use or utility of this oil, that is, we were able to create machines, we were able to create transportation, and this transportation and machines led to an unprecedented improvement in economic values, did suddenly oil become important, right? So in itself, if data is latent, it's lying around, it has limited use. Okay, but only if we can use it to make better decisions, to enable certain things in business, can we say that we are utilizing this data in the right direction. And today is the time that we can start this journey, simply because we have all the things that is required to enable a data driven culture. We have the hardwares, our computers, we have the softwares, the freewares, Python, R, all these are free softwares, right? We have the knowledge. So today, even in MBA colleges, you are being taught data analytics as a part of your subjects, right? You have in commerce, you have courses around data analytics. Earlier, it was just seen as something that engineers used to do. But today, it's become a management practice. Okay, so we have, and the management is also understanding and recognizing the need for it. So because of all of these things, we are in the position to utilize this data, and we should start looking at data as the core factor responsible for the next level of big growth in the industry. There will be, as I've written here, will it all be a rosy picture? No. There will be the dark side of data, but the advances that data fuels, especially the ease of doing business that it enables, these are worth the effort. This is worth the pain that will be generated by all these hackers and people causing trouble in the internet. But we will have to learn of how to manage them. But this is now data, and the use of data is now no longer negotiable, if I can so say. Now, this again is a word which you must have heard a plenty in the last 20 years, VUCA world, right? Have you all heard of this VUCA world? Have you all heard of VUCA world? So VUCA really means it's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Okay, so there is a lot of changes which are happening, and this whole coronavirus has only made each part of the VUCA pop out. It's become more volatile. You don't know what's going to happen next. It's become more uncertain. The complexity has increased. Now you have everything in hybrid form. So you have the physical office, and you have the online office, and you have a hybrid office, and you have the physical meetings and the online meetings, and you have hybrid meetings and hybrid projects, right? So there are just so many of these complexities which have risen because of of course the choices have increased, as well as the complexity has increased in the decision making. And finally, things are ambiguous. It is very difficult to understand where to invest. Will this trend remain on for a long period of time? This is all that goes into the mind of the managing person, the management of any business. Okay. And the human brain is an amazing structure. It enables us to adjust and make sense of the world as the world is changing. And when you look at the basket of skills which has been put out by the various agencies to say what are the skills which will help humans to survive in this VUCA world, these are the skills: problem solving and exception handling, analytics, which is intelligence amplification, pattern sensing, which is connecting dots, and then you have two soft skills, which is networking and openness to learning, which are people specific skills, right? They are not should we say only work enabled skills, but the softer side of work, soft skills, if I could so say, is networking, and openness to learning is the desire to continuously improve, which has become sort of mandated with all this change happening around us, right? And this is where organization like Adventure come in, where they enable us to upskill, and if we are open to learning, we can learn new skills and understand how to thrive in this ever changing world. Okay, but today what I want to focus on is this first few, which is problem solving, exception handling, which are unusual circumstances handling, analytics, which is with the aim of intelligence amplification, pattern sensing and connecting the dots, which is about being able to see trends and take the right decisions as per the trends that you see. So then the question becomes, what is all this intelligence amplification, IA versus AI? Because AI is what, and Elon Musk and so many people are talking about AI, like, why am I talking about IA? Okay. Now, here I have put, and I hope you can recognize both these very popular superheroes, right? You have the Terminator, which is what is AI, artificial intelligence. Given a task, the AI machine is able to undertake every part of that journey by itself. It does not need human intervention. In fact, at certain points, even if the human wants to intervene, the machine is not going to accept the intervention, right? But and here on the right side of the screen, you can see is Iron Man. Now Iron Man is has got all the facilities that AI Terminator has, but the final decision of what to do always rests with the human. Okay. And let me tell you that despite how much ever AI is being touted, in reality, most of the applications which are currently being worked on, and most of the areas that people are working on, are IA, which is intelligence amplification. Do you agree that all the things like a Google Map, um, you know, uh, um, uh, ordering online, and these apps, they are all intelligence amplification apps. Yes. In fact, you will notice, at least in India, they had reached a level of automation in payment systems where you could set up auto debiting of payment systems. You could set up auto debits of payment systems to a Microsoft Azure, and Amazon, or Google, etc. And that came under litigation because people felt that they were losing control. It was now not a conscious call every month, and over the last 3 months we have noted that the RBI has disabled this feature, and now we have gone back to the old process where the bill comes into your email, and you get a reminder to pay your bill. So you have configured the credit card details, but you have to click to enable it for that month. That means it has to be a conscious call. So what I'm trying to tell you is that at least in certain sections, we are going to see that people will try to restrict things up to the perspective of IA, and not really lead to absolute automation of AI. Now, then, which are the areas where you can expect complete automation of AI? What in your mind should be the areas where you want to have complete automation or AI? Anybody wants to comment? So I think that the areas where human life are at stake, so the firefighters who die, the soldiers who get killed, fighting terrorists, those are the areas where the focus of artificial intelligence will lie. Of course, you have the space programs and the like also, but in my understanding, and I am, as I said, I'm already observing these trends which are there in the industry. After a point, the regulators are going to start building frameworks where they will not allow AI to develop without any checks and balances. Okay, so there will be framework driven AI, is what I feel. That is what you're going to be seeing in the future. So that is, of course, not even, AI is fairly expensive and not even required in many of the decisions we take. But IA, which is intelligence amplification, that helps all the time. So what are the questions that our data tells us? Like, if we as an organization or a team within an organization today start out trying to figure out uh, that how will all these data analytics, data practices help us, then I will tell you that there are 4 levels or 4 types of questions that you can see answered. The first level is descriptive. That means what's happening in my business. Now, this level often a lot of organizations already have. So you have the daily, weekly, monthly, annual reports which tell you that what is happening in my business, and there is always scope of improvement. So you can always, like, if you're looking at things at a weekly basis, you can say, I want to look at it real time, right? And these options, this type of improvement in what's happening in my business, type of question, is also becoming cheaper now. So you have many visualization softwares like a Tableau or Power BI at a nominal rate. So you are able to use all of these to give comprehensive, accurate, and live data with very good and effective real time visualizations. All these apps that we have also, they help us see things real time. Agreed? Yeah. Okay. So so what we see is that from something as basic as Excel driven reports, okay, or pivot driven reports, to something as advanced as real time visualization dashboards. All of these are currently what different businesses always will continue to refine and focus on. The next part of it is called diagnostic, right? So why is it happening? So when you go to the doctor, you go and tell him, doctor, I have a headache. So that's what's happening, right? So what does the doctor do? He takes a comprehensive live data of your basic statistics, your blood pressure, your temperature, the pulse rate, etc. Then the question becomes for the doctor, why is it happening? So now I've understood that these are the metrics of this person, these are the metrics of my business, that we have 10% productivity while our competitors have 12% productivity, or we have 12% productivity or return on investments while our competitor has 10%. So why is it happening? Now this we come to know, or this we can affect by our ability to drill down to the root cause. Okay. So when we say root cause analysis, in the same dashboards, in the same reports, can we dynamically look at all the breakdowns? Okay. So if I was to say, why are we making a 10% return on investment? And I break it down by, um, um, you know, regions, and I find east, west, north, south. East is at a 20%, west is at a 6%, north is at a 12%, and south is at around a 9%. And the average of the businesses that they are doing is taking my results to 10%. So then the question becomes, can I change something? So therein starts the diagnostics, that okay, I'm getting 10% today with each of these four contributing at different rates. Can I improve the contribution of all the other three to match my best contributor? Right. So that's how diagnostic works. Okay. Then we come to the third kind, which is predictive. What's likely to be happening? So if we know that this is our general way that our work goes. So if we know that every time there is a storm in Chennai, it rains in Bangalore. Okay. Uh, can we predict what is going to happen in the month of December? And then the answer becomes, December is the rainy season in Chennai or Tamil Nadu. It will always rain in Bangalore also, simply because the weather effects migrate from there to here. Okay. Similarly, what's likely to happen? If I'm going to lend to students who don't have a steady income, there is a larger chance of default. We have seen it. We have lent to 1,000 salaried employees and 1,000 students, and we have seen in salaried employees only 2% default, but in students 10% of them default. Default meaning they do not return back the money. Okay. So prediction becomes that. Can I predict what's going to happen? And the answer becomes yes, I can. Given the type of person whom I'm considering for a loan, I should be able to tell you what is the chance he will default. Okay. But then the question becomes, what do I need to do? So you are saying this, that's fine, but my market is student loan. So what do I need to do to safeguard my profits? And the answer becomes, you have to charge a much higher rate of interest, so that the pool of good students are able to help reverse the impact of that 10% defaulting students. Correct? So prescriptive helps us answer, what do I need to do so that I can meet my aims? Okay. So again, if I go back to a doctor, I go to a doctor and I tell the person, this is my problem statement, I have a headache. So the descriptive becomes, what is happening in the body, right? So my BP, heartbeat, etc. I'll check. Diagnostic becomes, why is the headache happening? So you drill down and you find out, oh my God, it seems to be a bad case of acidity. Okay, so what is the prediction? That if this is acidity based, if we can take care of the acidity, it will take care of the headache. And what is the prescription thereof? At that point, the doctor checks with the person, do you have a family history of XYZ? Have you used any medicines earlier which have worked for you? Have you used any medicines which did not work for you? And after listening to these answers, the prescription is given saying, okay, please have medicine XYZ for next 5 days. Right? Now that is the type of data or evidence-based management that I'm talking to you, which is very possible in your business. Okay. And if you are already doing level 1 descriptive, then it is likely that you are ready to go to the next part, which is level 2 diagnostic. And if you're already doing diagnostic with the ability to drill down and find root causes, then you are in the position to take on the next leg of the journey, which is predictive. And then if you are doing predictive and you know and you are able to correctly predict that this is what happens whenever X happens, Y also happens, etc., you are ready to become a consultant and advise the business, saying that, listen, if you really want to go to XYZ, these are the 3 things you should do. I'll pause here and I'll ask you, I hope this is clear. Is there any doubts that is coming to you? I hope I've been able to bring out to you the process of business analytics and what we can achieve. Yeah. Okay. So hence, when we look at data and the decisions linked to it, this is the way things move. The raw data, the platform, and the engineering part of it, that all businesses have today. We have ERP systems where we store information. So in fact, it is built into the tech systems. Now, if we look at Adventure, which has a series of online courses, they are able to understand there is a place to track who came, clicked on which course, wanted to join, asked some doubts on it, right? So most of the businesses, be it big, small, be it online, offline, do have ERP systems. Even if they are based out of Excel or some basic software, there will be a system to understand and catch the data. The next level becomes the analytics applications of this data, which we spoke about, which is the descriptive and the diagnostic, for which we need dashboards, basically reporting tools. Okay. Visualizations and scorecards which tell us, am I doing well? Am I consistently doing well? Which part of my business is doing better than the others? How can I say that, if you come to know that retail business is doing better than corporate business, you might say that today retail is 50% and corporate is 50%. For next year, I will change this ratio to 80% retail and 20% corporate, right? Or vice versa. So there are multiple such outcomes that you get from the analytics applications of dashboards and scorecards and visualizations. You can also build in certain things like exception alerting, etc. What is that? It is the traffic light into the dashboard. So by itself, the system looks at the last 3 months of data and says, oh, this location is a red because last 3 months it has not met the target. Okay. So these types of smart ways to enable good decisions. Okay. Then when you go to the next level, you see analytic strategy. That is where you start looking at decision making analysis, KPI metrics, who, why, what, and how, and some program strategies. So here, this part starts moving into the realm of senior management, right? Then you see that there is the business strategy, and finally you have the business goals. Now this is a two-way street, so there are few business goals. To meet those few business goals, you have more business strategies. To meet those more business strategies, you have a larger variation of analytic strategies, which include things like KPIs and performance linked incentives and whatnot. And then to meet to fuel those systems, you need analytics applications like dashboard, which where you can actually see for every employee his productivity, is he meeting his KPIs, or for a team if they're meeting their KPIs or not, and the like. And how does all of this start? It starts with the raw data. So whatever is the raw data that you have. Okay. So let's look at it. Where are we? Like in our organizations, where are we? The responsibility of the raw data, that is the platform of technology engineering, the raw data, that lies on IT. Okay. So as a business manager, really, there's not much that goes in. Yes, of course, you interact with them to finalize the system, to decide what type of data you want to capture, but predominantly that's an IT role. The next role is the analytics application. At this point, what you find is that the business manager, so be it the sales manager, the ops manager, the HR manager, right? He is involved because he has to operationalize the analytics for his unit. Okay. The analytics team can be involved and the IT team can be involved. Sometimes, nowadays you're getting a merger of the business manager and the analytics person, and that is called a citizen data scientist, and we'll come to that a bit later. Business managers who are smart enough to do the basic analytics themselves, or learned, are knowledgeable enough, I should not say smart, I should say knowledgeable enough to do that. Then you have the analytics strategy. Here comes your business leader. So the leader, the HR head, the sales head, the operations head, he has to understand and roll out what is his KPI metrics for his department and stuff. And the analytics person has to enable this. Then you will notice that the top two items are actually only related to the senior managers. So the business leaders decide the business strategy and they also decide the business goals. Okay. So when you look at operationalizing analytics, you need all these steps or all these people who are part of these steps to be involved. It is, if you try to do analytics only for solving one particular business problem within one particular unit, then it would be very short-sighted approach. It is just like, it's only to solve this particular problem. Okay. So what we are saying is, see, you've got to evolve into Iron Man. All these technologies, analytics, etc., to be effective, have to start moving the data into insights. And these insights, you as business managers have to be able to use to create ROI for the business. Right? Okay. That is something critical that each one of us has to understand, that how are you planning to use the technology and the insights which the business analytics will generate to convert to ROI. So let us understand that this is an adoption of this business analytics or evidence-based management methodology will mean that everyone in this whole hierarchy should be in a position where they have to do their own bits. Okay. Now we have about 5 minutes left, and therefore I will just quickly show you what's happening in the field of banking that we can see. We can see that in this COVID time, banks have started giving out analytics as a service. They have started calling these business analytics as investment scientists. So you are finding that different terminologies have started coming, which is a very good way. See, in the fashion industry, nobody says blue. They're going to say words like cyan and baby blue and stuff. That means there's the depth. That's how granular things are becoming, that people are talking about it. And we are seeing that there are many automated tools that are driving the analytics. Okay, so that's one big thing. And there's a lots of areas of high automation in banking now that you can see emerging. So this means that not only trading automatically, but even doing IPOs. How many of you invested in the Paytm IPO, which just closed, I think, yesterday or day before? Right? So all these things, preventing activist investor attacks, AI powered virtual assistants, a merger and acquisition type of things, all of these have started becoming processes, becoming departments where even in a banking situation, we are seeing a lot of automation driven by analytics.